Hello everybody, my name is Blue and today we're back on the Grassland Animal Zoo. I hope you all had a great new year, and today we're doing the Caracal enclosure. Now, this time, it's going to be a bit different. The building style will be a bit different, using a bit of bamboo from the South America pack. Still using the mason pieces and a lot of plaster as always. And I'm trying to give this more of like a zoo feeling, I feel like. I feel the other ones are really modern, and well, this one is still relatively modern, but it feels more like a zoo. It's not as modern, it's a bit low-key, a bit more like DIY, maybe not DIY, but it feels more like a zoo in some ways. I don't know why, but it just feels like it in my opinion. And this enclosure will just have this one viewing point with the mesh, and it won't be the greatest view, so it's gonna be hard to find the caracals, so they have a bit of privacy, you know. But the actual exhibit worked out well. It was difficult to choose what kind of exhibit I wanted for the caracals, because I think most caracal enclosures you have a lot of these wild cats is that they have netting on top, but actually I was thinking of doing that, but eventually I decided to not have any netting, no mesh roof, but just have like I suppose that the curved like edges on the walls to protect the guests, to prevent the caracals from escaping, imagining it will probably be electrified or something along those lines. And this build will also tie into the maned wolf build in the future, because this walkway with the roof over the top that I'm building right now will be kind of a hub, so you can look at the caracals on one side and then eventually the maned wolves on the other side as well. And for this build, I'm trying to get some details in the wall, as you can see, with these black, I think it's the South American flexicolored wood beams. Giving it, I don't know, it's just a random design I came up with on the spot. And just a bunch of pillars, and you can just basically walk under it. It's not a building, it's more of just a roof kind of thing. And yeah, just a thing I suppose to protect you from the rain or the sun, you know. And the actual like enclosure of the caracal will be more over to the right, and it will also have a staff building, so I added some like staff facilities inside of there as well. And yeah, so as you can see, I'm just finishing off the edges with the wood beams from the South America pack, a lot of wood beams of the South America pack in this build. Just polishing it up a bit, adding some more beams between the pillars, and I think that's it. Now I'm just moving it eventually, I think. Yeah, move it a bit in place, add some path, or extend it even, and then eventually adding some path and tying it nicely into the zoo. So that's basically that. So as you can see, now this is like a concrete wall to prevent the caracals from climbing out. Instead of having the netted roof, as I said, it's just a plain concrete wall. They do the same with a lot of like monkeys and ape species. Having a plain concrete wall isn't the nicest thing to look at, but it's something they do in zoos because you can't really add too much like design to the walls, because otherwise the animals can use it to latch onto and climb out. So that's why it has to be just a plain wall, as I said, so they can't escape basically. And this will be a staff building, very simple, just plaster and a trim on top. There won't be any details to it. It's a very simplistic build, but it works. It looks okay. The roof will be also quite plain, but I'll add some of the conservation pack pieces, like the gutters and stuff like that, just to spruce up the build. But it's supposed to be very utilitarian, so Definitely not supposed to look all fancy and stuff. But even a simple build can look very good if you use it correctly. So definitely keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be a very highly detailed, and also I didn't bother with the back of the building because you don't see it anyway. So it's the front that's important. As long as it looks good from, I suppose, a top-down view, and it looks good from the view of the guests, it's important. The backside isn't that important, in my opinion, since you don't really see it. As you can see, I'm adding a little details, like having these opaque bubble kind of roofs that you have a lot in these early 2000 maybe kind of buildings. You have a lot of those kind of bubbly windows, like roof windows. And then this is like an AC unit kind of thing. I'm not sure what it is exactly. It just looks like it would fit on top of a roof. It looks like some AC unit, kind of like a shebang. Adding some like fence and stuff to make it look like it does something. Some cooling or some stuff like that, or like, yeah, well, you never know, I suppose. And then also a little window to look inside of the Caracal enclosure. And then as you can see, I'm finishing off the path, and I'll have like a planter in the middle, and also basically setting the boundaries for the maned wolf on the other side. And then here is just a simple kind of tying into the modern theme, just having a simple, it's not a shade, but more of like a wooden structure. It looks nice. It's kind of a modern kind of design. It looks cool. They have I think the New World theme has like a similar looking kind of piece. I just made my custom version of it. And then the actual wall of the the exhibit will mostly be this. It will just be the mesh with like, as I said, the electrified wiring on top, supposedly. And this goes all around, and it seems like a very simple wall, but simple walls can look very detailed if you add detail to it. Like it starts off with a very simple wall, but just adding plants, and like as you can see here, I'm adding this bamboo kind of fence to separate the guests from the mesh, and also to give the Caracal some privacy, really helps. So this basically forcing the guests to go to the viewing point, because they can't see the Caracals through this mesh wall because there's a bamboo fence in the way. And then adding a lower fence for a little planter area, and you'll see that just a simple thing like that really just looks very cozy in a way. It looks like a zoo, and that's the important thing. So yeah, there will be some grasses, because that's what this pack basically will have, just a lot of grasses and some grassland / desert-y kind of plants. And then here, I actually want to fill up the gaps in the path with some simple plaster pieces. So basically filling up the whole area of plaster to keep it consistent. And it looks better when it's all filled up. So that's definitely good. The other gap of grass next to it will be filled with just some plants. And then this side of the wall, I used some concrete, yet again, so they can't climb out. And then the back side, continuing that mesh fence that I've used before. And then I'll actually add some concrete so they can't climb out. Well, they can't anyway. There's the electrified fence, but you know, to give a nice backdrop, I suppose, as well when viewed from the guest point of view. So yeah, this is this low-lying wall, and then there will be, I think, some olive trees will be behind the mesh fence to tie it in and make it all enclosed, I suppose. But this is just some rock work, using the faux trees, like the faux logs, I don't know what they're exactly called, yeah, those things. And then hiding the actual faux logs by making this wall at the back thicker. It was a bit finicky, but you know, it worked. And after that, I just add some faux rocks using the same colours as I've always done with the rest of the zoo. Trying to give it some interesting shapes, like having some big boulders, I suppose. And I also use the boulders to integrate with some, like, well, limited, but some small climbing structures with some logs. But you'll see that later on in the speed build. And then really the rocks are mostly just to polish up the edges and stuff. Make it all look good. And definitely the pebbled faux rocks are really nice to use. Then, as I said, the olive trees in the back, trying to get the shape nice, and then adding some pebbles to make the top-down view look good as well. You don't really see this, but from a top-down view it looks better. So yeah, that's that. And then finishing off with the actual enclosure, adding some plants, I think. But it's quite grassy. It's a very grassy enclosure, because if I looked at source images, the big cats, caracals aren't really big cats actually, but if I looked at caracal enclosures, they are very grassy. So I used that inspiration for my own build, and then a little hatch to make the entrance to the inside bit look a bit more realistic. Also here, I thought, since they could probably climb up onto the faux logs, I added some of these electrified fence kind of thing for realism as well. The actual concrete wall above the viewing point doesn't have that, because I feel like it's not really necessary. But I did make it a bit higher though, just to be safe that it's definitely not jumpable, even though my escape is off, just for the realism's sake, The inside is quite simple. It's just a plaster box with a concrete floor, nothing more really. And then trying to add the food, since the actual keeper can't go into the habitat since the hatch is too small. I had to put the food and water inside. I end up adding a watering hole thing outside as well, because the keepers have this problem where they don't really fill up the watering troughs for some reason. I don't know why that is, but actually one of my caracals died of dehydration because I didn't disable the dehydration feature. So I thought, I'll just add the watering hole kind of thing outside so that they wouldn't dehydrate. And then, like as I said, very grassy. Using from the Africa pack, I think. I don't know what the name of the grass, but mostly it's those. And then having some nettles in between and some of the Grassland pack grasses, but I don't know the names of them though. And then the very simple climbing structure, as I said, it's just 2 logs, the 2 big logs, and then a load of smaller logs and sticks and stuff in between. It's a very small climbing structure because I didn't really want to go too much into the climbing. Oh, they do climb though, so definitely add some if you're making caracal enclosure. It really spruces up the habitat. And finally, a little rock formation with some elephant grass around it, and then that's the end of the speed build, and we'll hop into real-time mode in a minute. Alright, so here we are in the real-time showcase. Now, I think that it ended up quite nicely. I think from all the builds, this one feels most like an actual zoo build. It's not too over the top, I feel like. It's very low-key. I also didn't use any sandstone pieces for this one. So I suppose that's different. But yeah, the caracal enclosure, I feel like it looks really good. And well, this is the only viewpoint you have of the caracals, but don't they look amazing though? The little floppers with their cool little ears. I love their ears. And then obviously the staff section over here with a indoor view. and just a little walkway, because I'll probably add the maned wolf on this side whilst having the caracals on this side. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this speed build and the real-time overview at the end. I'll do some cinematics as well this time. Maybe I've already shown them, or maybe I'll do them now, I'm not sure. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.